Now, there's this thing about Marta. She can't lie. She can lie, but if she does, she throws up. Yo, YouTube, what's going on? Comic John here, and I just saw an advanced screening of Knives Out. It is such a good movie, and we're going to break it all down right now.
Please hang up and try again.
After 2005, a little movie called Brick, writer and director Rian Johnson came up with the basic concept for Knives Out. In June 2010, he expressed interest in making an Agatha Christie-inspired murder mystery film. He told, I believe, The Independent that he wanted to make the film after finishing Looper in 2012. And I think everything was kind of like all in place for him to do that. And then, what did he do? What did he do in 2007? Oh, that's right. The Last Jedi. And as you know, when you get offered a Star Wars movie, everything else kind of stops and you do the Star Wars movie. Even if it's regarded as the worst Star Wars movie ever made. Anyway, Knives Out. It's so good. Wealthy crime novelist Harlan Thombre basically invites like his entire extended family over to his giant mansion to kind of like reunite them all because they've got like major dysfunctional history in this family. And he's kind of like, yeah, maybe I can like get everyone together and just kind of get everyone on the same page. However, the housekeeper, Fran, finds him dead in the study the next morning. Blood all coming out of his neck, along with an experienced private eye played by the one and only Daniel Craig, Detective Benoit Blanc. They're called in to investigate. And obviously throughout like a series of interviews with all the family members, he discovers that they're lying, but hardly anybody is a suspect for murder. Like he can tell that they're all like lying and keeping secrets from each other, but he's not really sure if anybody killed the patriarch of the family. However, one of the weird things in this movie is like in the beginning of the second act, they let the audience know who the killer is. And it's not that simple. So it's then revealed that after the party, Harlan's caretaker, Marta Cabrera, takes Harlan upstairs to give him his nightly medication. He gets like a little bit of this and a little bit of morphine, or like a lot of this and a little bit of morphine. And they're playing this game, and it's some game called Go. Never heard of it. I don't know. I gotta look into if it's even real. So they're playing this game Go, and Harlan like is just joking around, and he's like, "Oh, it's an earthquake. Oh, you're not gonna beat me this time because the earthquake like ruined the game." And he like throws the board. And before Marta could give him his like meds, she picks up the bottles and injects them. And then the camera shot here was so good. It says so much and gives the viewer so much information all at once in one simple camera pan where Marta's got both medications in her hands and the camera just goes from one to the other. And then instantly she fucked up and she gave him 100 milligrams of morphine, and she explains to him like, yo, in like 10 minutes you're dead. So he's like, okay, well, you can't go to jail for murder. So to protect her, he gives her these crazy strict instructions on what to do and avoid suspicion that like only a horror novel writer could come up with. It's very extensive. So the next day, the private detective, Benoit Blanc, Daniel Craig's character, comes in, and him and Martha and the cops, they search the house and, the surroundings for clues. She's kind of like covering clues up as they're looking around, as he's not noticing. They even have like a security tape that would have shown her driving away and parking the night of his death. They like go and they get the tape, and they're walking back to watch it somewhere, and the whole time she's rubbing a magnet on it because she had earlier grabbed a magnet off the refrigerator, and she's rubbing a magnet all over the tape. And then there's another part, they're walking through mud, and she notices that her very footprints, her shoe prints, are in the mud. So she just kind of like keeps walking through them, like tracking over them. And then the dogs see her and they come run, and they run through it like a few times. Since it is the day of Harlan's will reading. Okay, this is awesome. They set this up so cool in a movie that I've never really seen them do before, because I don't remember a movie with a will reading. And like right before he says, or she says, yeah, I've never been to a will reading before. And I'm like, oh yeah, neither have I, and I bet you hardly anyone ever has. And it's so good, this whole scene. So they're at the will reading, and the family is like anxiously awaiting like who's getting the fortune or who's getting how much, and they are stunned to find out that, I mean, as I'm saying it right now, it doesn't seem like much of a surprise. I kind of assumed it. Marta gets everything. That includes the house and the publishing company. So the kids, the grandkids, they lose it. But they realize if they can have Marta proved as the murderer, then they'll get all the inheritance back. So they insist. Daniel Craig reopens the investigation. Blanc confirms his suspicion of foul play. He's adding that like everyone is still a potential suspect. I haven't ruled anyone out. And then Marta receives a ransom note reading, I know what you did last summer. Just kidding. Just saying, I know what you did, along with a partial photocopy of Harlan's toxicology report, basically showing that there is 100 milligrams of morphine when it's only supposed to be 3. But that part of it was cut off. It just showed that it was his toxicology report. The family's like going nuts, and Ransom grabs her, and he's like, let's get the hell out of here. So they drive to the medical examiner's office to get the only copy, the actual printout of the toxicology report, because what she had was only a copy. And they get there, and the whole place is burning down and swarming with cops. But Ransom is like, now Ransom is Chris Evans' character. His middle name is Ransom. He's like, listen, you check your email. Like maybe somebody sent you something via email instead of like a letter too. You know, like maybe someone sent you an email. So she checks the email, and there's an address and a time of where to meet. But after they let the audience know what actually happened, I was like, are we just going to sit here and wait for everyone else to figure it out? But then you start remembering all these other like mini mysteries that pop up. Like, who hired Daniel Craig? He doesn't even know. He just received like a shitload of cash, and it was like, figure this out. And he was like, all right, but yeah, who did hire me? So then they do flashbacks throughout the whole thing. Obviously in the beginning, when they're doing all the interviews, they flashback. But then they flash back to the night of the party. And we all see the scene where Ransom storms out after he discovers that Marta's going to get all the inheritance from Harlan. And he decides to frame her. So Ransom swapped the contents of the medication visits and removed the emergency morphine counteragent. So when she figures out that she is just basically overdosed him on morphine, she's got this thing, she's got this Pulp Fiction rescue needle, adrenaline shit that will bring him back to life. It's a morphine counteragent. So when he goes and switches them, when Ransom goes and switches the vials, he also took the backup, ensuring an overdose. He then swapped the vials back while the rest of the family was at his funeral, Harlan's funeral. So, all throughout the beginning, they keep mentioning that Ransom didn't show up for the funeral, but he showed up for the will reading. But Fran saw Ransom in Harlan's study that day and figured out that he was involved in Harlan's death, prompting her to send him the ransom letter, which Ransom then sent to Marta after cutting out the address. Ransom then burnt down the medical examiner's office to ensure that Harlan's blood work was destroyed. Ransom confronted Fran and drugged her with morphine, nearly killing her, before destroying the original copy of the toxicology report and emailing Marta Fran's location in the hopes of fooling the police into believing Marta had murdered Fran. Blanc then reveals that the toxicology report shows that Harlan wasn't poisoned at all, and that Marta had instinctively given Harlan the correct medication, but noticing the mislabeling, didn't know. So she literally didn't even read the label. She just saw the stuff inside it. I mean, the liquids, they both just look like water, but I'm sure like the substance of it is slightly different, and that's what she saw. She didn't even look at the label, so she gave him the right stuff. So I failed to mention that when he realizes that she basically just gave him a morphine overdose, and to get her out of it, he slits his own throat. So towards the end of the movie, Marta Cabrera receives a call from the hospital. It says Fran's alive, forcing Ransom to admit his crimes before angrily vowing revenge and legal recourse on Marta. At the last moment, Ransom grabs a knife in this huge wheel of knives that you've seen in the trailers. But Marta then throws up on Ransom because he's like, yeah, she's alive, so I didn't kill her. So what are you going to get me for? Attempted murder? I have a great lawyer and you ain't got shit. And then Marta throws up. It's like some weird involuntary thing, revealing that the hospital didn't call to say Fran was alive. They called to say Fran was dead. Ransom just goes crazy. Like I said, he grabs the knife and he dives at Marta and he stabs her right in the chest and he lands on her. And then he pulls the knife up and it's a trick knife, because he had like a million trick knives. Then obviously they arrest him and they take him out, and the rest of the family watches in disgust. But as Ransom is taken away, the remaining Thrombey family, they look up at the mansion's balcony. They turn around and they see Marta standing on the balcony in one of their grandfather's robes, drinking out of his signature coffee cup that says, "My house, my rules, my coffee." It's such a good movie, guys. Now, there's all these deeper layers to it. What stood out to me, obviously, immigration is a heavy, heavy theme. Immigration is definitely a heavy theme in this movie, because Marta's mother is illegal, and someone in the Thrombey family knows, and they kind of hang it over her throughout the whole movie. And then they even try to use it against her once she figures out that she gets all the inheritance money. And they're like, you're going to really need... Michael Shannon was so good. His character, he's like, look, we know that your mom's illegal and you would really need like a really good lawyer and like a lot of help to make sure that she stays here, because that's what we want. And she's like, well, yeah, I mean, I just inherited like 80 million, so I think I'll be okay. Seeing Chris Evans in this role was really fun because they fuck with you. In the beginning, he's the asshole. He's the black sheep of the family. He has this argument with Harlan in the beginning, and you only hear like 2 words, and then he's out of the house, and then he doesn't show up again until the middle, until the will reading. And that's when you think he's a good guy. And then at the end, he becomes the heel. And Chris Evans is not just Captain America. I mean, this guy is such a good actor, and he's just really fun to be enveloped in a movie with him. It's fun watching movies that he's in. It may just be the Captain America thing, but whatever it is, he's awesome. Ana de Armas, the woman who plays Marta, she's amazing. But Daniel Craig, not only was Daniel Craig a really good Jedi mind-tricked stormtrooper, but he is so good in this movie. He carries the whole thing with an amazing cast around him. Look, I've seen one Bond movie, the most recent one, Spectre or whatever, some of Casino Royale, and he seems great. But whatever he's doing in those Bond movies, he's not doing in this movie, and it's so awesome. It's so refreshing. He sounds nothing like him. They even make fun of it. I think Chris Evans makes fun of his accent at one time. CSI, KFC, and then there's the you eat shit. Eat shit. Yo, definitely you eat shit. Chris Evans, he has some really great one-liners in this movie. That'll do it for me, guys. Make sure to drop a like, subscribe, tell your friend to subscribe. Did get a really informative, insightful comment from someone the other day. He was, I guess, watching like my one of my episodes that did nothing. I just talked about like what could be coming, and he said, and I quote, "Not worth the time, not insightful, I'm sorry." So I thanked him, because listen, I only know what to do by you guys telling me what to do. So I tried to give you a little insight into Knives Out, and I tried to be worth your time, even though now I'm running at 20 minutes and I only wanted to do like a 10-minute video. But anyway, it's a great movie, guys. You got to go see it. I'm Comic John. I'll see you in the next video. I love you. Bye. Oh, hey. Make sure to like and subscribe and leave a comment and hit the notification bell. And if you're finding me for the first time, I do trailer reaction videos, hot take movie reviews, news briefs on anything Marvel, DC, Star Wars. You'll love it. Thanks.